The Adventure of the Engineer's Thumb. Of all the problems that my friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes worked on, only two came from me. One was about Mr. Hatherley's thumb. The other was about Colonel Warburton's madness. The second one was more interesting for someone who looks at people's minds, but the first one was very strange and full of drama. I think it is good to tell this story, even if Holmes did not use much of his special thinking skills in it. I know the story has been in the newspapers before, but stories like that are less exciting when told in a short space. It is better when the mystery grows slowly and each new thing brings us closer to the truth. I was very shocked by what happened, and even after 2 years I still remember it well. The events happened in the summer of 1889, not long after I got married. I had started working again as a doctor and left Holmes in his rooms at Baker Street, but I still visited him often, and sometimes I got him to visit us too. My work was going well, and because I lived near Paddington Station, I had some patients from there. One of them, whom I had helped with a long and painful illness, was very thankful. He always told people about me and tried to send me new patients. One morning, just before 7 o'clock, my maid woke me up. She said that two men had come from Paddington and were waiting in my consulting room. I dressed quickly because I knew train cases were often serious, and I went downstairs fast. As I came down, the guard came out of the room and closed the door behind him. "I've brought him," he whispered, pointing behind him with his thumb. "He is safe." "What is it?" I asked. He looked like he had brought a wild animal into the house. "It's a new patient," he whispered. "I brought him here myself, so he wouldn't run away. He's in there, safe and sound. I must go now, doctor. I have work to do, just like you." And then he left quickly without even waiting for me to say thank you. I went into my consulting room. A man was sitting at the table. He wore a plain suit and had a soft cloth cap, which he had placed on my books. One of his hands was covered with a handkerchief that had many blood spots on it. He looked young, about 25 years old, with a strong face, but he was very pale and looked very nervous, as if he was trying hard to stay calm. "I'm sorry to wake you so early, doctor," he said, "but I had a very bad accident last night. I took the train this morning, and at Paddington I asked where I could find a doctor. A kind man brought me here. I gave the maid my card, but I see she left it on the table. I picked up the card and read it. It said, 'Mr. Victor Hatherley, hydraulic engineer, 16A Victoria Street, 3rd floor.' That was the name and address of my visitor. "I'm sorry I made you wait," I said as I sat down in my chair. "You came after a night journey, I think. That must have been boring." "Oh, my night was not boring at all," he said. Then he laughed loudly. He leaned back in the chair and laughed so hard that his whole body shook. As a doctor, I felt something was wrong with that laugh. "Stop it," I said. "Please calm yourself." I poured some water into a glass. But it didn't help. He had one of those strange fits of laughter that can happen to a strong people after something very bad has happened. After a while he stopped laughing. He looked very tired and very pale. "I acted foolish," he said in a weak voice. "Not at all. Drink this." I put some brandy in the water. Soon some color came back to his pale face. "That's better," he said. "Now, doctor, please look at my thumb, or the place where my thumb used to be." He took off the handkerchief and showed me his hand. It shocked me. There were 4 fingers, but the thumb was gone. In its place was a red soft wound. It looked like the thumb had been cut or torn off completely. "Heavens," I said, "that is a terrible injury. You must have lost a lot of blood." "Yes, I fainted when it happened. I think I was unconscious for a long time. When I woke up, it was still bleeding, so I tied the handkerchief tightly around my waist and used a stick to hold it tight." "Very good. You could have been a doctor." "It's about hydraulics, you see, so it was in my field of work." I looked at the wound and said, This was done with something very heavy and sharp, like a meat cleaver, he said. Was it an accident? No, not at all. What? Someone attacked you on purpose? Yes, they tried to kill me. That is terrible. I cleaned the wound, put medicine on it, and then covered it with soft cotton and clean bandages. He stayed quiet, but sometimes bit his lips in pain. How is that? I asked when I finished. Very good. Between the brandy and the bandages, I feel much better. I was very weak. I have been through a lot. Maybe you should not talk about it. It still seems hard for you. Oh, no, not now. I must tell my story to the police anyway. But to be honest, if I didn't have this wound, I don't think they would believe me. My story is very strange, and I don't have much proof. Even if they believe me, I don't know if they can find the people who did this. Aha, I said. If this is a mystery you want solved, I strongly suggest you to talk to my friend, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, before you go to the police. Oh, I've heard of him, said my visitor. I'd be very glad if he takes the case. But of course I'll still need to talk to the police. Could you introduce me to him? I'll do more than that. I'll take you to him myself. Thank you very much, he said. We'll take a cab and go together. We will be just in time to have a little breakfast with him. Do you feel well enough? Yes, I won't feel calm until I tell my story. Then my servant will call a cab. I will be ready in a minute. I ran upstairs, quickly explained things to my wife, and 5 minutes later I was in a cab with my new friend going to Baker Street. As I expected, Sherlock Holmes was in his room in his dressing gown. He was reading the newspaper and smoking his pipe before breakfast. The pipe was filled with pieces left from yesterday's smoke, which he saved on the mantelpiece. He welcomed us kindly, ordered fresh bacon and eggs, and ate breakfast with us. After we finished eating, he helped our visitor lie down on the sofa, put a pillow under his head, and placed a glass of brandy and water next to him. It is clear that something unusual happened to you, Mr. Hatherley, said Holmes. Please lie down and feel at home. Tell us what you can. Stop if you get tired, and drink a little if you need strength. Thank you, said my patient, but I feel much better since the doctor helped me. Your breakfast also made me feel stronger. I won't waste your time. I will start my strange story now. Holmes sat in his big chair with a tired look on his face, hiding his sharp and clever mind. I sat opposite him. We both listened silently as our visitor told his story. You should know, he said, that I am an orphan and a single man. I live alone in a small flat in London. I work as a hydraulic engineer. I had a lot of training during 7 years with the famous firm Venner and Matheson in Greenwich. 2 years ago, after I finished my training and got some money when my father died, I started my own business. I opened an office in Victoria Street. I think everyone finds it hard when they first start a new business, but for me, it was very hard. In 2 years, I had only 3 meetings and 1 small job. That's all. I earned just £27 and 10 shillings. Every day, from 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, I waited in my small office. In time, I started to feel hopeless. I thought I would never have real work. But yesterday, just as I was about to leave, a clerk came in and said a man wanted to see me about my business. He also gave me a card. On it was written the name, Colonel Lysander Stark. The colonel followed him into the room. He was a man a little taller than average, but very, very thin. I don't think I have ever seen someone so thin. His face was long and narrow. The skin on his cheeks looked tight over his bones. But he did not look sick. His eyes were bright. He walked quickly, and he looked confident. His clothes were plain but neat. I think he was closer to 40 years old than 30. Mr. Hatherley, he said, with a bit of a German accent, you were recommended to me as a man who is skilled in his work, but also someone who can keep a secret. I bowed. I felt pleased, as any young man would after hearing such words. May I ask who gave me such a good recommendation? Well, maybe it is better if I don't tell you that just now. I also know that you are an orphan and a single man, living alone in London. That is true, I said, but I don't see what this has to do with my work. I thought you wanted to talk to me about something professional. Yes, I do, but you will see that everything I say is important. I have a job for you, but it must stay a secret. A complete secret, you understand. And it is easier to trust a man who lives alone than one who lives with his family. If I promise to keep a secret, I said, you can trust me completely. He looked at me closely while I spoke. His eyes looked very sharp and suspicious. Do you promise, then? He asked at last. Yes, I promise. No talking at all, before, during, or after. No letters, no words to anyone. I already gave you my word. Good. Suddenly he stood up, ran across the room, and opened the door. No one was outside. That's fine, he said, coming back. I know that office workers sometimes listen at doors. Now we can talk safely. He pulled his chair close to mine and stared at me again, with the same sharp look. I started to feel uneasy. There was something strange and even scary about this thin man. Even though I didn't want to lose a new client, I couldn't stop myself from showing I was annoyed. Please, say what you want, sir, I said. My time is important. I regret saying that, but I couldn't help it. How would 50 guineas for one night's work sound to you? He asked. Very good, I said. I say one night, but it may only take 1 hour. I want your opinion on a hydraulic stamping machine. It is not working. If you tell us what's wrong, we can fix it. What do you think about this job? The job sounds easy and the pay is very good. Exactly. We want you to come tonight on the last train. Where to? To Ayford, in Berkshire. It is a small village near Oxfordshire, about 7 miles from Reading. You can take a train from Paddington that arrives at 11:15. Very good. I'll meet you at the station in a carriage. So we must drive then? Yes, our place is in the countryside, 7 miles from the station. Then we will arrive after midnight. I guess there is no train back. I must stay the night. Yes, we can give you a place to sleep. That is not easy for me. Can't I come at another time? We think it's best that you come late. We're paying you well for the trouble. A young and unknown man like you is getting a fee that even top experts charge, but if you want to say no, you still have time. I thought about the 50 guineas and how useful that money would be. Not at all, I said. I'm happy to do what you ask, but I'd like to understand more clearly what you want me to do. Of course, it is normal that the secret makes you curious. I don't want you to agree to anything without knowing the full story. Are we sure no one is listening? Yes, it is safe. Then here's the matter. You probably know that Fuller's earth is valuable and is only found in a few places in England. Yes, I have heard that. Some time ago, I bought a small piece of land. It is not far from Reading. There was Fuller's earth in one of my fields, but the amount was small. I also saw that it was between two much bigger Fuller's earth fields. Those fields belong to my neighbors. These neighbors do not know that their land has something as valuable as gold. Of course, I wanted to buy their land before they found out. But I did not have enough money. I told a few friends my secret. They said we should quietly take the Fuller's earth from my land and sell it. Then we could get enough money to buy the other fields. That is what we have been doing. We also built a hydraulic press to help us, but now the press is broken. That is why we need your help. We keep our work very secret. If people saw an engineer visit our house, they would start asking questions. If they found out our secret, we could not buy the other land. So that is why I asked you to keep everything in secret. I hope you understand. Yes, I understand, I said. But I don't know why you need a hydraulic press. I thought Fuller's earth is taken out of the ground like gravel. Ah, he said, like it didn't matter much. We use our own method. We press the earth into bricks. That way no one knows what it is. But that's not important. I've told you everything now, Mr. Hatherley. I hope you see how much I trust you." He stood up. "I will see you at Ayford at 11:15. "I'll be there," I said. "And remember, not a word to anyone." He gave me a long, strange look, then shook my hand. His hand was cold and damp. Then he quickly left. When I thought about it later, I was surprised by this strange job. Of course, I was happy because the money was 10 times more than I would ask. Maybe it could lead to more jobs too. But still, the man's face and manner made me feel uneasy. I didn't think his full-as-earth story really explained why I had to come at midnight or why he wanted so much secrecy. Still, I decided to forget my fears. I ate a big dinner, went to Paddington and took the train. I did not tell a single person, just like he asked. At Reading, I had to change both the train and the station, but I caught the last train to Ayford and arrived at the small dark station after 11. I was the only person to get off. The station was empty, except for one sleepy worker with a lantern. When I walked out the gate, I saw the same man from the morning waiting in the dark. He said nothing, just took my arm and pulled me to a carriage. The door was already open. He closed the windows, knocked on the wall, and the carriage drove off quickly. "One horse?" asked Holmes. "Yes, just one." "Did you see the colour?" "Yes, I saw it in the side lights when I got in. It was chestnut." "Was the horse tired or fresh?" "It looked fresh and shiny." "Thank you. I'm sorry I stopped you. Please, go on with your story." We started moving again and drove for at least 1 hour. Colonel Lysander Stark had said it was only 7 miles, but I think it was closer to 12. He sat next to me and stayed silent the whole time. When I looked at him, I saw that he was staring at me. The roads were very bad, and the carriage shook a lot. I tried to look outside, but the windows were made of frosted glass. I could only see some bright lights pass by. I said a few things to break the silence, but he only gave short answers. So we sat quietly. Finally, we stopped moving on the rough road and drove on a smooth gravel path. Then the carriage stopped. Colonel Stark quickly got out and pulled me into a porch. We went straight from the carriage into the house, so I did not see the outside of it. As soon as we stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind us. I heard the carriage wheels leaving. Inside the house it was completely dark. The colonel looked for matches and spoke quietly to himself. Then a door opened at the other end of the hall and light came toward us. A woman appeared, holding a lamp above her head and looking at us. She was pretty, and her dress looked expensive in the light. She said something in a foreign language, like she was asking a question. When the colonel answered with a short word, she looked shocked, and the lamp almost fell from her hand. He went to her, whispered something, and pushed her back into the room. Then he walked back to me with the lamp. "Please, wait in this room for a few minutes," he said, opening a door. The room was small and quiet. There was a round table in the middle with some German books on it. The colonel put the lamp on a small organ near the door. "I won't be long," he said, and left. I looked at the books. I don't read German, but 2 books looked like science books and the rest were poetry. I walked to the window to see outside, but it was shut with thick wood. The house was very quiet. I could only hear a clock ticking in the hallway. I started to feel nervous. Who were these German people? Why were they in such a strange place? And where was I? I knew I was 10 miles from Ayford, but I didn't know in which direction. I walked around the room and hummed a little tune to feel better. I wanted to earn my 50 guineas. Then, without any sound, the door slowly opened. The woman stood there with the dark hallway behind her. The light from my lamp shone on her face. She looked very scared. It made me feel afraid too. She raised a shaking finger to tell me to be quiet. She spoke a few words of broken English and kept looking back like a frightened horse. I would go, she said. I would not stay here. It is not good for you. But madam, I said, I have not done my work yet. I must see the machine. It is not worth waiting, she said. You can leave now. No one will stop you. Then, when I smiled and shook my head, she stepped closer and held her hands together. For the love of heaven, she whispered, get away before it is too late. But I am a little stubborn. When someone says no, I want to do it more. I thought about my money, my long trip, and the bad night. Was I to lose it all now? Maybe this woman was not well in her mind. So I stood strong. Even though she scared me, I said I would stay. She was about to speak again when a door slammed upstairs. I heard people walking down. She listened for a moment, then raised her hands in despair and quickly disappeared. 2 men came in. One was Colonel Stark. The other was a short, fat man with a thick grey beard. The colonel said, "This is Mr. Ferguson, my manager and secretary." Then he said, "I thought I left the store shut. I hope you didn't feel a cold breeze." "No," I said. "I opened it myself because the room felt stuffy." He gave me a strange look. "Then let's get to work," he said. "Mr. Ferguson and I will take you to see the machine." "Should I take my hat?" I asked. "No need. It's inside the house." "What? You dig Fuller's earth inside?" No, we press it inside. But never mind that. Just look at the machine and tell us what's wrong." We went upstairs together. The colonel walked first with the lamp. The fat manager and I followed him. The house was like a maze. There were long halls, small stairs, and old low doors. The doorsteps were worn out by many people who had walked there before. There were no carpets. There was no furniture above the ground floor. The walls were broken, and green wet spots showed damp places. I tried to look calm, but I still remembered the lady's warning. I watched the 2 men carefully. Ferguson did not speak much, but when he did, I could tell he was English. Colonel Stark finally stopped at a low door. He unlocked it. Inside was a small square room. It was so small that 3 people could hardly stand in it. Ferguson stayed outside, and the colonel took me in. "Now," he said, "we are inside the hydraulic press. It would be very bad for us if someone started the machine now. The ceiling above is really a big piston. It comes down with great force onto the metal floor. Water pipes outside help move it. The press works, but it is a little stiff, and it has lost some strength. Please, look at it and show us how to fix it." I took the lamp and looked closely at the machine. It was very big and very strong. When I went outside and pushed the levers, I heard a strange soft sound. I knew water was leaking back through one of the side parts. I checked more closely and saw that a rubber band on one rod had shrunk. It didn't fit tight anymore, so water leaked. This was why the machine had lost power. I showed it to the 2 men. They listened carefully and asked questions about how to fix it. After I explained everything, I went back inside the main part of the press. I wanted to look more closely just to understand the machine better. It was easy to see that the story about Fuller's Earth was not true. The strong machine was not made for something so simple. The walls were wood, but the floor was made of iron like a big box. I looked closely and saw a shiny metal layer on the floor. I bent down and started to scrape it to see what it was. Then I heard someone say something low in German. I looked up and saw the pale face of the colonel staring down at me. "What are you doing there?" I asked. I was angry. I knew now that his story was a lie. "I am looking at your Fuller's Earth," I said. "I think I can help you better if I know what this machine is really used for." As soon as I said it, I was sorry. His face changed. His eyes looked cold and dangerous. "Very well," he said. "You will know everything about the machine." He stepped back quickly, shut the little door, and turned the key. I ran to the door and pulled the handle, but it was locked. I kicked and pushed, but it didn't move. "Hey!" I shouted. "Colonel, let me out!" Then I heard a sound that made me freeze. I heard the levers move and the soft sound of water. He had started the machine. The lamp was still on the floor. By its light, I saw black ceiling moving down slowly. I knew how strong the press was. In 1 minute, it would crush me flat. I hit the door with my hands and pulled at the lock. I cried to the colonel, but he did not answer. The sound of the machine was too loud. The ceiling was now just a little above my head. I touched it with my hand. It was hard and rough. Then I thought, how will I die? If I lie down, it will break my back. That would be a terrible way to die. But if I lie on my back, I would see the black ceiling coming down. Could I stay calm enough to do that? I could no longer stand up straight. Then I saw something that gave me hope. I said before that the floor and ceiling were iron, but the walls were wood. I looked around fast. I saw a small line of yellow light between two boards. It got wider and wider. A small door opened. For a moment I could not believe it. Was it really a way out? Then I jumped through and fell on the floor on the other side. I almost fainted. The small door closed behind me. I heard the lamp break. Then I heard a loud metal crash. I had just escaped death. Someone pulled at my wrist. I opened my eyes. I was lying on a stone floor in a small hallway. A woman was bending over me. She held a candle in one hand and pulled at me with the other. It was the same woman who had warned me before. Come, come, she said quickly. They will come soon. They will see you are gone. Please do not wait. Come now. This time I listened to her. I stood up and ran with her through the hallway and down a turning stair. At the bottom we reached a wide hall. Just then we heard loud footsteps and voices. One voice was above us and one below. The woman looked around, not knowing what to do. Then she opened the door. It led to a bedroom. The moon was shining in through the window. This is your only chance, she said. The window is high, but maybe you can jump. As she spoke, I saw a light at the end of the hallway. Colonel Lysander Stark was running towards us. He had a lantern in one hand and a big knife in the other. I ran across the bedroom, opened the window and looked out. The garden looked quiet and pretty in the moonlight. It was about 30 feet down. He climbed onto the window sill, but I waited. I wanted to hear what he would do to the woman who saved me. If he hurt her, I would go back to help. Then he came to the door and pushed past her, but she held him back with her arms. Fritz, Fritz, she cried in English. Remember your promise. You said it would not happen again. He will say nothing. Oh, he will say nothing. You are crazy, Elise, he shouted. He tried to get past her. You will ruin everything. He has seen too much. Let me go. He pushed her away and ran to the window. He hit at me with his knife. I was hanging from the window with my hands. His knife hit me. I felt a sharp pain. I let go and fell into the garden. The fall was hard, but I was not badly hurt. I stood up and ran fast into the bushes. I knew I was still in danger. But then I felt very sick and dizzy. I looked at my hand. It hurt a lot. Then I saw my thumb was gone. Blood was coming out fast. I tried to tie my hand with my handkerchief, but my ears were buzzing. Then I fainted in the rose bushes. I don't know how long I was there. It must have been a long time. When I woke up, the moon was gone, and the sun was rising. My clothes were wet with dew, and my sleeve was full of blood. The pain in my hand made me remember everything. I jumped up, afraid they might still find me. But when I looked around, I was surprised. I could not see the house or garden. I had been lying near a hedge by the road. A little down the road was a long building. I walked to it. It was the same train station where I arrived last night. If not for my bloody hand, I would think the whole night was just a bad dream. I felt confused, but I went into the station. I asked when the next train to Reading was. It would come in less than an hour. The same porter was there. I asked him if he knew Colonel Lysander Stark. He did not know the name. I asked if he saw a carriage waiting last night. He said no. I asked if there was a police station near. He said the nearest was 3 miles away. That was too far. I felt too weak and sick. I decided to wait until I got back to London to tell the police. I arrived in town just after 6. I first went to a doctor to fix my hand. Then the doctor kindly brought me here. Now I tell you everything. I will do whatever you say. We sat quiet for a while after this strange story. Then Sherlock Holmes took one of his big books of newspaper cuttings from the shelf. "Here's something interesting for you," said Holmes. "This was in all the newspapers about a year ago. Listen. Lost on the 9th, Mr. Jeremy Hayling, aged 26, a hydraulic engineer. Left home at 10 o'clock at night and was never seen again. He wore," and so on. Ha! That was the last time the colonel needed someone to look at his machine, I think. "Oh, no," cried the engineer. "That explains what the woman said." Yes, the colonel was a cold and dangerous man. He wanted nothing to stop his plans. He was like a pirate who leaves no one alive. Well, every minute is important now. If you feel well enough, let's go to Scotland Yard. Then we can go to Ayford. About 3 hours later, we were all on the train to a small village near Reading. With us were Sherlock Holmes, the engineer, Inspector Bradstreet from Scotland Yard, another police officer in plain clothes, and me. Bradstreet had a large map of the area and was drawing a circle with Ayford in the centre. "There," he said, "this is a 10-mile circle around Ayford. The house must be close to this line. You said 10 miles, right? It was about an hour's drive. And they brought you back the same way while you were unconscious." "They must have. I remember being carried somewhere, but not clearly." "I don't understand," I said, "why they didn't kill you when they saw you fainted in the garden. Maybe the woman begged them not to." "I don't think so. That man looked like he had no mercy." "Well, we will know soon," said Bradstreet. "I wish I knew exactly where to look inside the circle." "I think I know," said Holmes quietly. "Really?" said the inspector. "You have an idea? Let's all guess. I say south because there are few people there." "I say east," said the engineer. "I think west," said the other officer. "There are many small quiet villages there." "And I say north," I said. "There are no hills that way, and the engineer didn't feel the carriage going uphill." The inspector laughed. "We all picked different directions. What do you agree with, Mr. Holmes?" "You're all wrong." "We can't all be wrong." "Oh, yes, you can. This is the spot." Holmes pointed to the center of the circle. "This is where the house is." "But what about the 12-mile ride?" asked Hatherley. 6 miles out, 6 miles back. That's easy. You said the horse was fresh when you got in. That wouldn't be true if it had already run 12 miles on bad roads." "Yes, that makes sense," said Bradstreet. "And we know what kind of people they are." "Yes," said Holmes. "They are coin makers. They use the machine to mix metal that looks like silver." "We knew for some time that someone was making fake coins," said the inspector. "They made thousands of half-crowns. We followed them as far as Reading, but couldn't go farther. They were very clever, but now, thanks to this lucky story, I think we have them." But the inspector was wrong. The criminals would not be caught. As we arrived at Ayford station, we saw a big cloud of smoke. It came from behind some trees and looked like a huge feather in the sky. "Is that a house on fire?" asked Bradstreet as the train moved on. "Yes, sir," said the station master. "When did it start?" "During the night, sir. But it's much worse now. The whole place is burning." "Whose house is it?" "Dr. Betcher's." "Tell me," said the engineer, "is Dr. Betcher a thin German man with a long sharp nose?" The station master laughed. "No, sir. Dr. Betcher is English, and he wears a very nice waistcoat, but he has a patient who is a foreigner staying with him. That man looks like he could use some good food from Berkshire." Before the station master finished, we all hurried toward the fire. The road went over a small hill, and in front of us was a large white building. Fire was coming out of every window and crack. In the garden, three fire engineers tried to stop the fire, but it was hard. That's it, said Hatherley excitedly. There's the gravel road and the rose bushes where I lay. That second window is where I jumped from. Well, said Holmes, you've got your revenge. It must have been your oil lamp, crushed in the machine, that started the fire. They were too busy chasing you to see it then. Watch carefully in this crowd for your friends from last night, but I think they are far away by now. Holmes was right. After that day, no one heard anything about the beautiful woman, the strange German, or the quiet Englishman. That morning, a farmer saw a cart with some people and big boxes going fast toward Reading, but after that no one knew where they went. Even Holmes could not find any clues. The firemen were very surprised by the strange things inside the house. They found a freshly cut human thumb on a window sill on the second floor. Round sunset, they finally stopped the fire, but the roof had fallen, and the whole house was ruined. Only some broken machine parts were left. They found large amounts of nickel and tin in a small building outside, but no coins. This explained the big boxes they saw earlier. How the engineer was moved from the garden to where he woke up was a mystery, but the soft ground told the story. Two people carried him. One had very small feet, and the other had very large feet. It seemed the quiet Englishman, less dangerous than the other man, helped the woman carry the engineer away from danger. Well, said the engineer sadly as we sat to go back to London, this has been a bad night for me. I lost my thumb and my 50-guinea fee. What have I got? Experience, said Holmes, laughing, and that may be useful. If you tell your story, people will think you are very interesting for the rest of your life.